My name is Rod, and at 32, I thought I had life figured out. After 3 years of saving every penny from my software engineering job, I finally had $18,000 for a down payment on my dream house. Then my sister Amanda, always our parents' favorite despite her history of irresponsibility, stole my bank card and emptied my account. The real shock wasn't her betrayal, but when my parents defended her actions, instead of supporting me, they had no idea that one calculated move on my part would flip their entire world upside down. Before I dive into this life-changing story, let me know where you're watching from in the comments, and hit that subscribe button if you've ever had to stand up against family injustice. Growing up in Portland, Oregon, in a middle-class neighborhood, shaped much of who I am today. Our house was modest but comfortable, with enough space for our family of 4. My parents, Laura and Greg Wilson, were hard-working people who instilled strong values about family loyalty above all else. At least, that's what they preached. From the moment Amanda was born when I was 6 years old, the family dynamic shifted dramatically. She was the unexpected miracle baby after my parents thought they couldn't have more children. With her bright blue eyes and golden curls, she quickly became the center of our family universe. I still remember the day they brought her home from the hospital. Mom and Dad were beaming with pride as they introduced me to my baby sister. I was excited too, eagerly promising to be the best big brother ever. Little did I know that the sweet baby girl would grow into someone who would eventually betray me in the worst possible way. As we grew up, the pattern of favoritism became increasingly obvious. When I was 10 and Amanda was 4, I accidentally broke one of Mom's decorative plates while cleaning. I was grounded for 2 weeks and had to do extra chores to pay for it. 3 years later, when Amanda deliberately threw a tantrum and broke an entire shelf of Mom's collectibles, she received nothing more than a gentle talk about being more careful with her emotions. This pattern continued throughout our teenage years. When I was 16 and got a B on my report card instead of my usual A, my parents restricted my activities for a month, saying I needed to focus more on my studies. When Amanda regularly brought home C's and D's, they hired her expensive tutors and rewarded her with shopping trips when she managed to get a single B. The car incident really drove it home for me. I had saved up from my part-time job at a local grocery store to buy a used Toyota when I was 17. I took meticulous care of that car, washing it weekly and saving for regular maintenance. When Amanda turned 16, she begged to borrow it for a date. Against my better judgment, I let her use it after she promised to be careful. She returned it with a massive dent in the passenger side door after hitting a fire hydrant. My parents didn't make her pay a dime for repairs. Instead, they suggested I should just be grateful she wasn't hurt. Then came the college application disaster. I had worked tirelessly on my MIT application, staying up late perfecting my personal statement and gathering recommendation letters. I left the envelope sealed and ready to mail on the kitchen counter, needing just one more recommendation letter that was coming the next day. That night, Amanda had friends over, and they used my application as a coaster for their drinks. By morning, the envelope was soaked, the papers inside ruined with soda and unreadable. When I confronted her, she laughed and said, "You can just print new copies, right?" My parents told me I should have put it somewhere safer and that I was overreacting. I missed the deadline and had to settle for my second-choice school. Despite all this, I persevered. I graduated with honors in computer science and landed a job at a growing tech company in Portland. I worked hard, earned promotions, and began saving for my future. My dream was to own my own home, something stable and permanent that was truly mine. For 3 years, I lived frugally. While my coworkers splurged on expensive lunches and weekend trips, I brought packed meals and picked up extra freelance projects. Every month, I watched my savings grow inch by inch toward my goal of $18,000 for a down payment on a modest starter home. Throughout these years, one person always saw through Amanda's manipulations. My grandmother, Eleanor, my father's mother, had a no-nonsense attitude and a keen eye for character. She would often pull me aside at family gatherings and say, "That girl's going to face reality someday, and it's going to hit her hard." Grandma Eleanor was the one person who consistently recognized my achievements and encouraged me to stand up for myself. By the time I turned 32, I was living in a small apartment with my roommate Thomas, a graphic designer I met through mutual friends. We got along well, splitting chores and respecting each other's space. More importantly, sharing rent allowed me to save more aggressively for my house fund. Amanda, now 26, had bounced between jobs and relationships, never staying with either for more than a few months. She still lived with our parents rent-free, coming and going as she pleased, with no real responsibilities. They continued to bail her out of every difficulty, from maxed-out credit cards to fender benders. I had been working with a real estate agent named Jessica for several months. We had looked at dozens of properties, and I was getting close to finding the perfect place. Jessica was patient and understood exactly what I was looking for. "Just a few more weeks," she told me, "and we'll find your dream home." The market's shifting in buyers' favor. My excitement grew as my savings approached the full $18,000. I had opened a separate account specifically for my house fund, watching it grow with pride. I even downloaded a home visualization app where I would spend hours planning furniture layouts and color schemes for my future place. For the first time in my life, I felt like all my hard work and responsibility was about to pay off in a tangible, meaningful way. Little did I know that everything I had worked for was about to be stolen away by the person who should have been cheering me on the loudest. The morning that changed everything started like any other Tuesday. I woke up early, squeezed in a quick workout, and made coffee before sitting down at my computer to check my emails before heading to work. I had a meeting scheduled with Jessica that evening to look at a promising property, a cozy 2-bedroom bungalow with a small yard, just 15 minutes from my office. Wanting to confirm my finances before the meeting, I logged into my bank account to make sure my house fund was ready for a potential offer. I expected to see the familiar number, $18,047, the result of 3 years of sacrifice and discipline. Instead, the balance showed $47 even. I blinked hard, thinking it must be a display error. I refreshed the page. Same balance, $47. $18,000 had vanished. My heart began racing as I clicked on the transaction history. There it was in black and white. 3 separate withdrawals over the past 3 days. $6,000 on Friday, $7,000 on Saturday, $5,047 on Sunday. All in-person withdrawals, all from different ATM locations across Portland. My hands trembling, I grabbed my phone and called the bank's customer service line. After navigating the automated system and verifying my identity, I explained the situation to the representative. "Sir, these appear to be authorized withdrawals," she explained calmly. "They were made with your physical card and correct PIN number." "That's impossible," I insisted. "I haven't made any withdrawals." "Let me check something," she said. I could hear keys clicking in the background. These withdrawals were made at ATMs in the Clackamas Town Center, downtown Portland, and the Pearl District. Does that sound familiar? No, absolutely not. I haven't been to any of those places recently. My mind was racing, trying to make sense of what was happening. "Sir, do you still have your card in your possession?" I reached for my wallet, flipping through the card slots. My credit card was there, my driver's license, my health insurance card, but my debit card for the house fund account was missing. "It's gone," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "My card is gone." As the representative began explaining the fraud reporting process, a memory flashed into my mind. Amanda had stopped by my apartment the previous weekend, supposedly to borrow some kitchen supplies for a dinner party she was planning. She had spent about 20 minutes in my apartment while I helped Thomas move some furniture in from his parents' house. She had asked to use my bathroom, which required walking past my bedroom. "I need to call you back," I told the bank representative abruptly, ending the call. I immediately dialed Amanda's number. It went straight to voicemail. I tried again with the same result. Thomas emerged from his room, ready to leave for work. "Everything okay, Rod? You look like you've seen a ghost." "Thomas, when Amanda was here on Saturday, did you notice if she went into my room at all?" He thought for a moment. "Now that you mention it, yeah. I came back in to grab my keys, and she was coming out of your room. She said she was looking for that cake pan she wanted to borrow." "Why?" My suspicions were confirmed. Amanda had been in my room, gone through my things, found my debit card, and somehow knew my PIN. The only explanation was that she had watched me use it before or had seen the number written somewhere. I occasionally jotted it down in my planner, disguised as a phone number. I spent the next hour on the phone with the bank, filing a fraud report, canceling the card, and understanding my options. The customer service representative was sympathetic, but not encouraging. Since the withdrawals were made with your physical card and correct PIN, this will be considered a family fraud case, she explained. The investigation will take time, and recovery of funds is not guaranteed without legal action against the person who took your card. I called work and explained I had a family emergency, then spent the morning gathering evidence. I printed my bank statements, documented the timeline, and tried repeatedly to reach Amanda. Each call went to voicemail. By noon, my shock had transformed into a sickening mix of betrayal and anger. $18,000. 3 years of saving. My dream home slipping away. I called Jessica to cancel our evening appointment. "Rod, what's wrong? You sound terrible," she said after I explained I couldn't make it. "I just found out someone stole all my savings," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "The down payment is gone." "Oh my God, that's awful. Have you filed a police report?" I hesitated. "Not yet. I'm pretty sure it was my sister." "Your sister?" Jessica sounded genuinely shocked. "Rod, I'm so sorry, but you need to report this. That's a significant amount of money." "I know. I just need to confront her first. I need to hear her admit it." "Be careful," Jessica warned. "People can react unpredictably when cornered." After ending the call with Jessica, I tried Amanda's phone one more time. Still no answer. I checked her Instagram account and found a story posted 2 hours earlier. She was shopping at Nordstrom with 2 friends, flashing shopping bags and mimosas at an upscale restaurant in the mall. I grabbed my keys and headed for my car. It was time for a face-to-face confrontation. I found the mall parking lot surprisingly full for a Tuesday afternoon. After circling for nearly 10 minutes, I finally found a spot far from the entrance. The walk gave me time to rehearse what I would say, though my thoughts were a jumbled mess of hurt, betrayal, and rage. According to her Instagram story, Amanda and her friends had been shopping at Nordstrom before heading to the Capitol Grill for lunch. I decided to try the restaurant first. As I approached, I spotted them through the window, seated at a table near the bar. Amanda was laughing, holding up a glass of champagne, completely carefree, while my life was crumbling around me. I entered the restaurant, bypassing the host who tried to ask if I had a reservation. I walked straight to their table, where Amanda sat with her 2 friends, Jasmine and Kara, both of whom I recognized from her social media posts. "Amanda," I said, my voice surprisingly calm despite the storm raging inside me. She looked up, momentarily startled, then quickly composed herself with a practiced smile. "Rod, what are you doing here? Want to join us for lunch? We need to talk now." Her friends exchanged uncomfortable glances. Amanda rolled her eyes dramatically. "Can it wait? We're celebrating Jasmine's new job." "No, it cannot wait. $18,000 cannot wait." Amanda's smile faltered slightly, a flash of guilt crossing her face before she regained her composure. "I don't know what you're talking about. My bank card, my savings. The money that's suddenly missing from my account after you visited my apartment." Her friends were now staring openly, sensing the tension. The waiter approaching our table quickly pivoted away, recognizing he was walking into a situation. "Rod, you're making a scene," Amanda hissed, looking around nervously. "I'll stop making a scene when you tell me why you stole $18,000 from me." Jasmine's eyebrows shot up. "Amanda, what is he talking about?" Amanda laughed, but it sounded hollow. "He's being dramatic. I borrowed a little money. It's a family thing." "Borrowed?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You took my card without permission and emptied my account. That's not borrowing. That's stealing." "Fine," she snapped, her friendly facade cracking. "I took it. But it's not like you can't save it again. You're always so careful with your money, so responsible." She said the last word like it was an insult. "That was my house down payment, Amanda. 3 years of saving." She shrugged, taking another sip of her champagne. "And I needed it more. Do you know how hard it is living with Mom and Dad? I needed to get away, have some fun." "So you spent my life savings on fun?" I gestured to the shopping bags piled next to their table. Designer names were prominently displayed on each one. "Not just that," she said defensively. I went to Vegas over the weekend, and I'm planning a trip to Cancun next month. Plus, I paid off some of my credit cards. I was speechless. She had blown through $18,000 in less than 4 days, and was sitting here drinking champagne like nothing had happened. Amanda, you need to return everything you bought and give me back my money. She laughed again, but her friends weren't joining in now. They were watching her with new, wary expressions. Return everything? Are you serious? I already used the clothes in Vegas, and you can't return a vacation. Besides, it's just money. You can make more. It's not just money. I was struggling to keep my voice down. It's my future. It's 3 years of sacrificing and planning. Oh, please. It's not like you have kids to support or anything. You're just one person. I have a social life to maintain. Friends who expect things. You wouldn't understand. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My own sister, so casual about destroying something I had worked so hard for. You need to pay me back, I said firmly. Every cent. With what money? She laughed bitterly. You know I don't have it. Then you need to come up with a payment plan. Or, I'm going to the police. At this, her expression changed. The amusement vanished, replaced by something harder. You wouldn't dare. Try me. No one will believe you over me, she said, lowering her voice. Mom and Dad never have. I'll tell them you gave me the money, and now you're having regrets. Or that you're jealous. I'm finally doing well. They'll believe bank statements and a police report. Go ahead and try, she challenged, leaning back in her chair. I'll tell them you're harassing me, that you've always been jealous of me, that you're having a breakdown. Jasmine cleared her throat uncomfortably. Amanda, maybe you should just work something out with him. Stay out of this, Amanda snapped at her friend. Then she turned back to me with a smirk. You know what will happen if you go to Mom and Dad? It'll be like every other time. They'll take my side, and you'll be the bad guy for not supporting family. She was right, and we both knew it. The pattern had been established our entire lives. This is different, I insisted, though doubt was creeping in. Is it? She picked up her champagne flute again. We'll see. Now, if you'll excuse me, we were celebrating before you showed up and ruined the mood. I stood there for a moment, seething with helpless anger. This isn't over, Amanda. She smiled sweetly. It never is with you. You always were one to hold grudges. As I turned to leave, I heard her friends whispering, and Amanda quickly changing the subject to something trivial. She genuinely believed there would be no consequences for what she had done. And based on our history, she had good reason to think so. Walking back to my car, I made a decision. It was time to talk to our parents. Despite Amanda's confidence, I had to believe that even they would draw the line at outright theft. How wrong I was. The drive to my parents' suburban home took 40 minutes, giving me plenty of time to organize my thoughts and calm my racing heart. Their house, a 2-story colonial with blue shutters and a neatly maintained lawn, had been my childhood home until I left for college. As I pulled into the driveway, memories flooded back. Playing catch with Dad in the front yard. Mom teaching me to ride a bike on this very driveway. Holiday gatherings around the dining room table. And beneath those happy memories, the quieter ones. Being sent to my room while Amanda got away with the same offenses. Hearing be the bigger person so many times it became a bitter inside joke with myself. Watching my achievements go unnoticed while Amanda's smallest efforts were celebrated. I sat in my car for several minutes, gathering my courage. This was different, I told myself. $18,000 wasn't a broken plate or a dented car. This was theft, pure and simple. They had to see that. I found them in the kitchen. Mom was preparing dinner, and Dad was at the table with his tablet, probably catching up on sports news. They both looked surprised to see me. Rod, this is unexpected, Mom said, wiping her hands on a dish towel before giving me a quick hug. Is everything okay? No, I said, deciding to get straight to the point. Everything is not okay. Amanda stole my bank card and took all of my savings. $18,000. Their reactions seemed appropriately shocked at first. Mom's hand flew to her mouth. Dad's eyebrows shot up as he set down his tablet. Are you sure? Dad asked. That's a serious accusation. I'm positive, I replied, pulling out the printed bank statements. 3 withdrawals in 3 days, right after she visited my apartment. I confronted her, And she admitted it. Mom and Dad exchanged a look I couldn't quite interpret. She admitted it? Mom asked cautiously. Those exact words? Yes. She said she needed the money more than I did. She spent it on shopping, a trip to Vegas, and paying off her credit cards. And she's planning a trip to Cancun. Dad frowned, reaching for the bank statements. This is very concerning. Just then, Mom's phone rang. She glanced at it and said, "It's Amanda," she answered, putting it on speaker. "Mom!" Amanda's voice came through, clearly upset and crying. "Rod is harassing me. He tracked me down at lunch with my friends and caused a huge scene. He's accusing me of stealing from him." Mom and Dad exchanged another look. I could see their expressions shifting, hardening slightly as they listened to Amanda's sobs. "Honey, calm down," Mom said soothingly. "Rod is here now. He's showing us some bank statements. He's twisting everything," Amanda cried. "I told him I'd pay him back, but he's being so cruel about it. He knows I'm going through a tough time right now, and he's using this to hurt me." I stared at the phone in disbelief. "That's not what happened at all," I protested. "You laughed in my face and said I could just save more money. See how he twists my words?" Amanda sobbed. "Dad, please make him stop. He's always been jealous of me, and now he's trying to turn you against me." Dad's expression had completely changed now. The concern for me was gone, replaced by the familiar protective look he always got when Amanda was upset. "Rod," he said in a measured tone, "maybe you need to calm down and approach this differently." "I am calm," I insisted. "And I have proof. Look at the statements. Look at the timing. She took my card when she was at my apartment last weekend." "We don't know that for certain," Mom interjected. "Maybe you misplaced your card, or perhaps you mentioned your PIN around her without realizing." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "So even if I did, that makes it okay for her to take $18,000? "Of course not," Dad said, but his tone lacked conviction. "But Amanda says she intends to pay you back." "No, she doesn't," I said flatly. "She literally laughed at the idea. She said I could just save it again because I don't have kids to support." Mom sighed heavily. "Rod, you know your sister. She can be impulsive sometimes. She probably didn't realize how important that money was to you." I told her, "It was my house down payment," I countered. 3 years of saving. She knew exactly what she was taking. "Well," Dad said slowly, "maybe this is an opportunity for you to help your sister. She's clearly going through something difficult right now." I stared at him incredulously. "Help her? She stole $18,000 from me." "Family supports family," Mom said firmly. "Maybe you could consider it a loan." "A loan requires consent," I pointed out. This was theft. Such a harsh word, Mom flinched. "Between family members. What would you call it then?" Dad cleared his throat. "Look, son, I understand you're upset. But taking legal action against your own sister would be extreme. It would destroy this family. So I'm just supposed to accept that my savings are gone? That all my hard work meant nothing?" "Of course not," Mom said. "We'll help Amanda set up a payment plan. She'll pay you back eventually." "When? How?" I demanded. "She doesn't even have a steady job. And she's never faced consequences before, so why would she start now?" "You need to be the bigger person here," Dad said, using the phrase I had grown to hate. "I've been the bigger person my entire life," I exploded. "When does Amanda have to be responsible for her actions? When does she have to be the bigger person?" Mom's expression hardened. "Don't raise your voice in this house, Rod. We raised you better than that. You raised me to be responsible, to work hard, to be honest," I said, lowering my voice but maintaining my intensity. "Why doesn't that apply to Amanda too?" "Amanda is different," Mom said softly. "She's more sensitive. She needs more support." "And I don't?" I asked, feeling a lump forming in my throat. "I just had my future stolen from me, and you're worried about her feelings?" Dad sighed heavily. "Look, why don't we do this? Mom and I can lend you some money to help with your down payment, and then Amanda can pay us back instead. That way you can still get your house." I stared at them, finally understanding. They weren't going to hold Amanda accountable. Not now, not ever. In their eyes, her tears would always outweigh my pain. "That's not the point," I said quietly. "This isn't about the money anymore. It's about respect. It's about justice." "Justice," Mom repeated with a little laugh. "Listen to yourself. This is family, Rod. Family is more important than money or justice or whatever principle you think you're standing on. I gathered the bank statements and stood up. I've always believed family should support each other, protect each other. But that has to go both ways. Where are you going? Dad asked. Home, I replied. I need to figure out what to do next. Rod, Mom called as I reached the door. Don't do anything rash. Nothing that can't be undone. I turned back to look at them one last time, these people who had raised me but consistently failed to stand by me. Some things can't be undone, I said, like the knowledge that when it really mattered, you chose her over what's right. Again, the drive home was a blur of pain and clarity. I had gone to them hoping for support, for justice, for some recognition that what Amanda had done was wrong. Instead, I had received the same message I had been hearing my entire life. Amanda's comfort was more important than my pain. As I pulled into my apartment complex, I made a decision. If my family wouldn't hold Amanda accountable, I would find someone who would. The day after the disastrous confrontation with my parents, I called the one person I knew would give me straight advice. Grandma Eleanor had always seen through Amanda's manipulations and had never been afraid to call things as she saw them. We met at her favorite diner, a retro place with red vinyl booths and the best apple pie in Portland. At 78, Grandma Eleanor was still sharp as a tack, her silver hair cut in a practical bob, her blue eyes missing nothing. So she took all of it? She asked after I explained the situation. The entire $18,000? Every cent, I confirmed. And when I confronted her, she laughed it off, said I could just save more. Grandma's eyes narrowed. And your parents? Suggested I consider it a loan. Offered to lend me money themselves and have Amanda pay them back instead. She snorted. So nothing changes. They shield her from consequences, and you're expected to just accept it. Exactly. I pushed my coffee cup between my hands. I don't know what to do, Grandma. If I go to the police, it might permanently damage my relationship with my parents. Rod, she said firmly, reaching across to still my fidgeting hands. That relationship is already damaged. Has been for years. The question is, are you going to let Amanda get away with this too? Because if you do, I guarantee it won't be the last time. You think I should press charges? I think you need to stand up for yourself. Finally, show them all that you won't be the doormat anymore. She squeezed my hand. Your grandfather, God rest his soul, had a saying, respect isn't given, it's earned. But sometimes it has to be demanded. Her words stayed with me as I left the diner. For the first time in my life, I was considering taking real action against the family dynamic that had hurt me for so long. That afternoon, I called my friend Patrick, a lawyer who specialized in financial crimes. We had been friends since college, and he had heard many stories about Amanda over the years. Based on what you're telling me, you have a solid case, Patrick said after I explained everything. You have the bank statements showing the withdrawals. You have your roommate who can testify she was in your apartment and in your room specifically. And most importantly, you have her own admission that she took the money. But it would be her word against mine on the admission, I pointed out. That's why you need to gather more evidence, Patrick advised. If you're serious about pursuing this, you need to document everything. He outlined a strategy for me. First, record any future conversations with Amanda where she might admit to the theft again. Oregon was a one-party consent state for recordings, so this would be legal. Second, gather evidence of her spending through social media posts and receipts. Third, file an official police report with all the evidence attached. The key is to be methodical, Patrick emphasized. This isn't about revenge, it's about justice and protecting yourself. Over the next week, I followed his advice meticulously. I documented Amanda's Instagram posts showing her shopping sprees and vacation plans. I saved screenshots of text messages where she casually referenced borrowing money from me. I even managed to record a phone conversation where she admitted taking the card but insisted it wasn't technically stealing because we were family. I also met with the bank's fraud department again, providing them with all the evidence I had gathered. The representative was sympathetic, but explained that in cases of family fraud, they usually deferred to law enforcement. We recommend filing a police report, she advised. That will strengthen your case for restitution. With Patrick's help, I drafted a formal repayment agreement, outlining a reasonable schedule for Amanda to return the money. It was a last attempt at resolving the situation without legal action. I arranged to meet Amanda at a coffee shop to present the agreement. She showed up 45 minutes late, wearing designer sunglasses that probably cost more than a month of my rent. "What's this about?" she asked, not bothering to remove her sunglasses or apologize for her tardiness. I slid the agreement across the table. "A payment plan. For the money you took." She barely glanced at it. "I told Mom and Dad I'd pay them back eventually. They're going to help you with your down payment." "That's not acceptable," I said firmly. "You stole from me, not from them. I want you to sign this agreement to pay me back directly." She finally took off her sunglasses, fixing me with an incredulous stare. "You're still on about this? I thought Mom and Dad talked to you." "They did, but this is between you and me." She picked up the agreement, skimming it with a growing frown. $300 a month? For 5 years? Are you insane? It's a reasonable amount based on minimum wage. If you get a better job, the payments can increase accordingly. She threw the paper down. "I'm not signing this. You can't make me." "Actually, I can," I said calmly. "I've gathered evidence of the theft, the bank card withdrawal locations and times, your social media posts showing the spending, our recorded conversation where you admitted taking the money." Her expression faltered slightly. "Recorded conversation? That's illegal. Not in Oregon. One-party consent." "You're bluffing," she said, but uncertainty had crept into her voice. "I'm not. I'm giving you one last chance to handle this between us. Sign the agreement, start making payments, and we can keep this in the family. And if I don't, then I go to the police tomorrow with all the evidence. Grand theft is a felony, Amanda." She laughed, but it sounded hollow. "You wouldn't dare. What would Mom and Dad say?" "I'm done worrying about what they would say. This is about what's right." "Your empty threats don't scare me," she said, standing up abruptly. "Go ahead, call the police. See where that gets you. You'll be the one who destroyed this family, not me." With that, she stormed out, leaving the unsigned agreement on the table. True to my word, the next morning I went to the police station and filed a formal report. I provided them with all the evidence I had gathered: bank statements, recorded conversations, social media screenshots, witness statements from my roommate and Amanda's friends who were present during our confrontation. The officer taking my statement was professional but candid. "Family theft cases are complicated," he warned me. "Are you sure you want to pursue charges? This will likely permanently affect your relationship with your sister." "I'm sure," I said firmly. "She needs to face consequences for once in her life." 3 days later, Amanda received an official summons to appear in court. The flood of calls from my parents began almost immediately. "What have you done?" Mom demanded, her voice shrill with panic. "Amanda just got a court summons." "I filed charges for the theft," I replied calmly. "You can't be serious. She's your sister." "Yes, and she stole $18,000 from me. Being my sister doesn't make that okay." "You need to withdraw the charges immediately," Dad chimed in, having apparently taken the phone from Mom. "This is going to ruin her life. Her actions might have consequences." "How terrible," I replied, unable to keep the sarcasm from my voice. "Rod, please," Dad's voice softened, trying a different approach. "We're family. We can work this out amongst ourselves." I tried that. I offered her a reasonable payment plan. She laughed in my face and walked out. "She's young. She made a mistake." "She's 26, Dad, not 16. And this wasn't a mistake. It was a deliberate action followed by a complete lack of remorse. If you go through with this, you'll regret it," Mom warned, back on the phone. "Some bridges can't be rebuilt once they're burned." "I'm aware of that," I said quietly. "But I've spent my entire life watching Amanda get away with hurting people. It stops now." The calls continued for days. Pleading turned to anger, then to threats, then back to pleading. I remained firm. For the first time in my life, I was standing up not just to Amanda, but to the entire family dynamic that had enabled her behavior for decades. As the court date approached, I felt a strange sense of calm. Whatever happened next, I had finally taken control of my own story. I wasn't a victim anymore. I was someone who demanded respect and justice, even when it was difficult, and I was ready to face whatever came next. The morning of the court date arrived with a mixture of dread and determination settling in my stomach. I had barely slept, running through possible scenarios in my mind. Would Amanda show up? Would my parents be there? What if the judge dismissed the case? Patrick had agreed to represent me pro bono, partly as a friend and partly because he was genuinely outraged by Amanda's actions. We met for coffee before heading to the courthouse. "Are you ready for this?" he asked, studying my face with concern. "As ready as I'll ever be," I replied, adjusting my tie nervously. I had chosen my most professional outfit, a navy suit I usually reserved for important work presentations. "Remember," Patrick advised, "stick to the facts. Don't let emotion drive your statements. The evidence is strong, but family courts can be unpredictable." The courthouse was an imposing stone building in downtown Portland. As we climbed the steps, I spotted my parents and Amanda huddled near the entrance. Amanda was dressed conservatively in a simple dress and cardigan, looking nothing like the flashy, carefree person who had laughed in my face at the restaurant. My parents stood protectively on either side of her, my mother's arm around her shoulders. They saw me approaching, and their expressions hardened. Mom looked away, but Dad gave me a disappointed headshake that was painfully familiar from my childhood. I nodded acknowledgement but kept walking, Patrick at my side. Inside, we found the assigned courtroom and took our seats. Amanda and my parents sat on the opposite side of the aisle, studiously avoiding looking in my direction. The courtroom was mostly empty, except for a few court officials, and what appeared to be other cases waiting their turn. When our case was called, we approached the front. The judge, an older woman with silver-streaked black hair and penetrating eyes, reviewed the file before her. "This is an unusual case," she noted, looking between Amanda and me. "Family members seldom bring financial theft charges against each other. Mr. Wilson, you're alleging your sister stole $18,000 from you?" "Yes, Your Honor," I replied. "She took my bank card without permission and withdrew all of my savings over 3 days." "And Miss Wilson, you're denying these allegations?" Amanda stepped forward, her eyes downcast in a perfect picture of contrition. "Your Honor, this is all a misunderstanding. My brother offered to help me financially during a difficult time. Now he's changed his mind and is calling it theft." I could see my parents nodding supportively behind her. The judge turned to me. "Mr. Wilson, do you have evidence to support your claim that this was theft rather than a gift or loan?" "Yes, Your Honor," Patrick replied, stepping forward with our evidence folder. "We have bank statements showing the withdrawals occurred immediately after the defendant visited my client's apartment. We have witness testimony placing her in his bedroom where he kept the card. We have recorded conversations where Miss Wilson admits to taking the card without permission. And we have extensive documentation of spending immediately following the withdrawals." The judge reviewed our evidence carefully, paying particular attention to the transcripts of the recorded conversations. Amanda shifted uncomfortably as the judge read, "Miss Wilson, in this conversation you clearly state, and I quote, 'I took it because I needed it more than you did.' That contradicts your statement that this was an agreed-upon loan." Amanda glanced back at our parents before responding. "I meant, I took the offer of help. Rod is twisting my words." "The recording is quite clear," the judge countered. What happened next changed everything. The judge looked down at some additional papers in the file, her eyebrows raising slightly. "Miss Wilson, this isn't the first time you've been accused of financial impropriety, is it?" Amanda paled visibly. "I don't know what you mean. I have reports here from 2 previous roommates and an ex-boyfriend, all alleging you took money or credit cards from them. No charges were filed in those cases, but the reports exist in the system." My parents looked stunned. Amanda stammered, "Those were misunderstandings too." 3 separate misunderstandings with 3 separate individuals, all involving missing money? The judge's tone made it clear she wasn't buying it. I was shocked. I had no idea Amanda had done this before. The judge continued reviewing the evidence, occasionally asking clarifying questions. Patrick presented our case methodically, while Amanda's responses became increasingly flustered and contradictory. After about 45 minutes, the judge leaned back in her chair. "I've heard enough. Based on the evidence presented, it's clear to this court that Miss Wilson did indeed take Mr. Wilson's bank card without permission and withdrew funds without authorization. This constitutes theft, regardless of family relationship." Amanda began to cry, not the manipulative tears I was used to seeing, but genuine sobs of fear and shame. "Miss Wilson," the judge continued, "given that this is the first time charges have been formally filed against you, though not the first incident reported, I'm sentencing you to the following: full restitution of the $18,000, plus 5% interest, 100 hours of community service, mandatory financial counseling, and 2 years of probation." My parents gasped audibly. Amanda swayed slightly, and my father moved to support her. "If you fail to comply with any part of this sentence, you will face jail time," the judge warned. "I suggest you take this opportunity to make significant changes in your behavior. Family relationships may seem elastic, but they have breaking points." She turned to me. "Mr. Wilson, the court recognizes the difficulty in bringing these charges against a family member. Restitution payments will begin next month." With a bang of her gavel, it was over. Amanda was officially a convicted thief, and for once in her life, she was facing real consequences. In the hallway outside, an extraordinary scene unfolded. My parents stood with Amanda, who was still crying, but their expressions had changed dramatically. They looked shell-shocked, as if seeing her clearly for the first time. "You've done this before?" my father was asking her, his voice barely above a whisper. "To roommates? To your boyfriend?" Amanda couldn't meet his eyes. "It wasn't like that," she mumbled. "Then what was it like?" Mom pressed, her protective arm now conspicuously absent from Amanda's shoulders. I started to walk past them, not wanting to intrude on this moment of reckoning, but Dad reached out and caught my arm. "Rod, wait." His voice sounded different, older somehow, and deeply tired. "Can we talk for a moment?" Patrick glanced at me questioningly, and I nodded that it was okay for him to give us space. "I had no idea," Dad said quietly, "about the others. About any of it." "I know you didn't," I replied. "I should have believed you," he admitted, the words clearly difficult for him. "Not just about this, but all the other times too." Before I could respond, we were interrupted by the appearance of Grandma Eleanor, walking purposefully down the hallway toward us, her cane tapping against the marble floor. "Well," she said, looking between all of us, "it seems the truth has finally come out." "Mom, what are you doing here?" Dad asked, surprised. "Supporting my grandson," she replied firmly. "Someone in this family needed to." She turned to my parents, fixing them with a stern gaze that had cowed stronger people than them. "Greg, Laura, you've been enabling that girl for 26 years. Look where it's gotten her, and look what it's done to your relationship with your son." Mom started to protest, but Grandma held up a hand to silence her. "I've held my tongue for too long, watching you favor one child over the other. It stops today. Amanda needs help, not protection from consequences, and Rod deserves your respect and support, not your judgment." With that, she linked her arm through mine. "Come on, Rod. I'll buy you lunch. We have a victory to celebrate." As we walked away, I glanced back to see my parents still standing with Amanda, but something had shifted. The protective bubble they had kept around her for so long had finally burst. Whether they were ready to admit it or not, they could no longer deny the reality of who she had become under their indulgent care. It wasn't the reconciliation I might have hoped for, but it was something more valuable, the beginning of truth. And perhaps someday, that truth might lead to healing. 6 months passed after that fateful day in court. The seasons changed from winter to spring, and my life transformed in ways I never could have anticipated. The first restitution payment from Amanda arrived exactly when scheduled, followed by the second and the third. Each month, the check came with a brief note. The first simply said, "Sorry." By the third, they had evolved into short but seemingly genuine expressions of remorse. With the steady return of my savings and some additional overtime at work, I was able to resume my house hunting. Jessica, my real estate agent, found me a charming craftsman-style home just outside the city. It needed some work, but it had good bones and a small yard where I could plant a garden. When I signed the closing papers, the sense of accomplishment was sweeter for having been delayed. My relationship with my parents had entered an awkward but slowly improving phase. After the court hearing, we didn't speak for nearly a month. Then my father called one evening. "We've been doing a lot of thinking," he said, his voice hesitant, and talking with Amanda's counselor. "We've realized we have a lot to answer for in how we raised both of you." It wasn't quite an apology, but it was a start. We began having occasional dinners, carefully avoiding contentious topics at first. There was a tentativeness to our interactions, as if we were all learning how to relate to each other all over again. Amanda and I had minimal contact, primarily through her required payments. I heard from my parents that she had moved out of their house and found a job as an administrative assistant. She was attending her counseling sessions regularly and, according to them, showing signs of genuine change. Meanwhile, my friendship circle had expanded. Thomas, my former roommate, had introduced me to his wider group of friends, and I found myself surrounded by people who valued reliability and reciprocity in relationships. Patrick and I met regularly for basketball, and he'd introduced me to his sister Alicia, who shared my interest in hiking and photography. Grandma Eleanor became a more central figure in my life. We had lunch every Sunday, and she helped me pick out furniture for my new home, offering candid opinions on everything from couches to curtains. "Too beige," she declared about one set of drapes I was considering. "You've played it safe all your life, Rod. Your home should reflect the more confident man you're becoming." I took her advice and chose bolder colors and patterns than I would have dared before. Each choice felt like a small declaration of independence, a step toward defining myself on my own terms. As Thanksgiving approached, I decided to host dinner at my new house. I invited Grandma Eleanor, Thomas, Patrick, Alicia, and a few other friends who didn't have family in town. After some consideration, I extended an invitation to my parents as well, though I specified it would be a larger gathering, not just family. To my surprise, they accepted. The morning of Thanksgiving, as I was preparing the turkey using Grandma's recipe, the doorbell rang. I opened it to find my parents standing awkwardly on my front porch, a pie in my mother's hands. "We brought dessert," she said unnecessarily. "Pumpkin. I remembered it was your favorite." It was a small thing, but significant. I couldn't remember the last time she had acknowledged one of my preferences without comparing it to Amanda's. "Thanks, Mom. Come in." They entered cautiously, looking around at my new home with curious eyes. "You've done a wonderful job with the place," Dad commented, taking in the warm colors and comfortable furniture. "It feels like you." "Thanks," I replied, genuinely touched. Grandma helped a lot. As if summoned by her name, Grandma Eleanor emerged from the kitchen where she'd been supervising the stuffing preparation. She nodded to my parents with guarded approval. "You came," she said simply. "Good." The gathering slowly filled with my other guests, the house warming with conversation and laughter. My parents seemed initially out of place among my friends, but gradually relaxed as the afternoon progressed. I caught my father deep in conversation with Patrick about local politics, while my mother helped Alicia arrange the table settings. As we all sat down to dinner, I looked around at this eclectic group, this chosen family supplemented by blood relations, and felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. 6 months ago, I had been devastated, betrayed by my sister and unsupported by my parents. Now I was hosting Thanksgiving in my own home, surrounded by people who valued me. We were halfway through the meal when the doorbell rang again. Excusing myself, I went to answer it, puzzled about who might be arriving so late. Amanda stood on the porch, looking nervous and clutching a small bouquet of flowers. "I know I wasn't invited," she said quickly, "and I completely understand why. I just wanted to drop these off and say Happy Thanksgiving." She looked different. The designer clothes and perfectly styled hair were gone, replaced by a simpler, more authentic appearance. But the biggest change was in her eyes, which held a humility I had never seen there before. "Mom and Dad didn't know I was coming," she added. "This wasn't their idea. I wanted to see your new house, and to tell you in person that I'm sorry, really sorry, for everything." I stood there, unsure how to respond. Part of me wanted to close the door, to protect the peaceful new life I had built. But another part, perhaps the part that had always hoped for real connection with my sister, hesitated. "Would you like to come in?" I found myself asking. "There's plenty of food." Her eyes widened in surprise. "Are you sure? I don't want to ruin your day." "You won't," I said, surprising myself with how true it felt. "But there are ground rules. This is my house, and these are my friends. No drama, no old patterns. She nodded earnestly. I understand. I'm just grateful for the chance. I led her into the dining room, where conversation temporarily halted as everyone registered her presence. My parents looked stunned. Grandma Eleanor narrowed her eyes suspiciously but said nothing. Amanda stopped by to wish us happy Thanksgiving, I explained. I've invited her to join us. Thomas, ever the social facilitator, immediately made room at the table and engaged Amanda in conversation about her new job. Gradually, the initial tension eased and dinner continued. Later, as people moved to the living room for coffee and dessert, my father pulled me aside. I need to say something I should have said months ago, he began, his voice thick with emotion. I'm sorry, Rod, for not seeing what was happening all these years, for not being the father you deserved. I swallowed hard, unprepared for the directness of his apology. Amanda's counselor helped us understand how our parenting affected both of you, he continued. We failed you by not holding her accountable. And we failed her too, by not teaching her how to be a decent person. It wasn't all bad, Dad, I said, finding myself in the unexpected position of offering comfort. No, but too much of it was unfair to you. Your mother is having a harder time admitting it, but she knows it too. He glanced toward where Mom was tentatively engaging with Alicia. We're trying to do better. That's all any of us can do, I replied, feeling a weight lifting that I hadn't even realized I was carrying. As the evening wound down and guests began to leave, Amanda approached me by the front door. Thank you for letting me stay, she said quietly. Your house is beautiful, and your friends are really nice. They are, I agreed. The counseling is helping, she offered. I'm learning a lot about myself. None of it very flattering, but necessary. I'm glad. She hesitated, then asked, do you think, maybe someday, we could try to have a real relationship? Not like before, but something better? I considered her question carefully. I think it's possible, but it would take time, and consistency, and respect going both ways. She nodded solemnly. I'd like to try, whenever you're ready. After everyone had left, and I was cleaning up with Grandma Eleanor, she fixed me with her perceptive gaze. You've grown, she observed. Standing up for yourself changed more than just this situation. It changed you. For the better, I hope, I smiled. Definitely for the better. You know who you are now, what you'll accept and what you won't. That's a powerful thing. As I fell asleep that night in my new home, I reflected on the journey of the past 6 months. The theft that had seemed like the end of my dreams had actually been the beginning of something more valuable: self-respect, healthy boundaries, and authentic relationships. I had learned that sometimes standing up for yourself means standing alone, at least temporarily. That respect isn't automatic, even from family, but must be established through boundaries and consequences. That forgiveness is possible without forgetting, and that healing doesn't mean returning to old patterns. Most importantly, I had learned that one brave, difficult move could change everything, not just externally but within myself. By refusing to accept what had always been, I had created space for what could be. If you've ever faced betrayal from someone you trusted, especially family, I hope my story gives you courage. Standing up for yourself isn't selfish, it's necessary. Setting boundaries isn't cruel, it's healthy. And demanding respect isn't arrogant, it's your right. Have you ever had to take a stand against family injustice? How did it change your relationships? Let me know in the comments. And if this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear that it's okay to flip the script when necessary. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do, both for yourself and for those who hurt you, is to shatter the illusions that keep everyone stuck in destructive patterns. Thank you for listening to my journey, and I wish you strength on yours.